So today we're going to be talking about Voyager 1 and how we lost connection with Voyager before being able to reconnect with the spacecraft. In the Sky Report, we will talk about various celestial objects that will be in the night sky tonight, Thursday, and Friday. In particular, the Summer Triangle on Friday, as well as some planets, moons, and stars that will be on the horizon during those days. Finally, we will discuss that the elusive search for the mysterious Planet 9 is coming to an end. All of that and more will be covered. This is Interstellar Insights. Alright guys, so to start off this portion of the podcast, we're going to be talking about Voyager 1. Because we lost contact with Voyager 1 November 2023, and it was repaired just recently in April, and it's been in headlines for at least a month, so it's worth something to talk about. So let's do a little bit of a kind of a brief history lesson on Voyager 1 and the Voyager program. So the Voyager space program was designed by NASA in the 70s to send two sister spacecraft out into the outer planets and, the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune to be exact, and just study those, because besides telescope observations and just looking at in the sky, we didn't really have much data on them. And, we learned a lot about the outer planets from these two missions. So Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. Voyager 2 is the sister aircraft of Voyager 1. They were both tasked with that, and then they had a secondary mission, which is basically go out into interstellar space. And they did this while carrying a golden disc, which was a disc curated by Carl Sagan, just kind of media from Earth. So there were songs, there were speeches, there were images. Basically, the idea was if they encountered any kind of extraterrestrial life, that they would learn about humans from the disc. And this disc is actually a golden disc, so it'll outlast pretty much all of humanity. And if humans evolve into like a new species, or humans go extinct and there's no evidence of humans on Earth, that'll be like the last evidence of that humanity ever existed, is from those images. So anyways, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 were launched both in 1977. So Voyager 1 was launched a little bit earlier. I can't say by how much, just probably a couple months. And Voyager 1's missions was slightly different, as it only did flybys of Jupiter and Saturn before heading off into interstellar space, whereas Voyager 2 did flybys of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune as it made its way to interstellar space. And most of the images that you guys see online of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, or Neptune, they're probably will be coming from the Voyager missions, maybe from Galileo, that space mission to Jupiter, or Cassini to Saturn. But the more older images of these planets are going to be from mainly Voyager 2, because Voyager 2 not only studied these 4 planets, but they also studied the moons. So, they studied the Galilean moons of Jupiter, the biggest moons of Saturn, Titan, Enceladus, Midas. Uranus, they studied Miranda, the jigsaw puzzle moon, because the surface of Miranda is very jagged. Also, the biggest moon of Uranus. And they studied Triton on Neptune, which is Neptune's biggest moon. And, there's a lot of nitrogen on Triton, and a lot of geysers that just shoot out from Triton. So anyways, Voyager 1 reached the interstellar medium, just known as interstellar space, but that's just me sounding scientifically fancy. It reached interstellar space outside the solar system on August 25th, 2012, and Voyager 2 left the solar system on November 5th, 2018. And to give you guys some kind of statistics on distance, Voyager 1 is 15.1 billion miles away from Earth and counting. And Voyager 2 is 12.7 billion miles away from Earth and counting. So we're probably going to maintain contact with these two spacecraft probably for another 20 to 40 years. I can't say exact before they're truly lost. But that's how long we'll stay in contact. These two objects by far are the farthest man-made objects from Earth. And there's a famous image. I can't forget, it was from Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. But it was taken I'm going to say in 1990, and it was basically a picture of Earth from the outer parts of the solar system, kind of uh, between the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud. It just showed Earth as a pale blue dot, which shows how far these two spacecraft have, they've come from Earth, and they're venturing farther than humanity's ever going to be, assuming that we're going to first get to Mars by 2030 thanks to Elon Musk. But the point is that these spacecraft have gone far in places farther away than humanity, may not be able to reach. So, Voyager, that space program is very important, to the history of humanity. I think besides the moon landing, I think the Voyager missions are probably second important, if not tied with the moon landing, because of how much we've learned from Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. But anyways, that's enough of the history. Let's go to what actually happened. So Voyager 1 stopped sending data to NASA, the Deep Range Transmitter in Australia, around November 2023. And NASA technicians were able to repair it by April 18th. So what happened was there was an issue in Voyager 1's flight data subsystem. I'm just going to call it FDS because I don't want to destroy my voice. But anyways, there's an issue there, and there's a corrupt memory chip. And that malfunctioning chip rendered some of the data unusable. Unusable. You guys know what I mean. I don't want to sound like an idiot. Anyways, that chip rendered some data unusable. So then what they came up with was they're going to kind of chunk the affected code, take it out of that chip, and then they're going to put it into other parts of the flight data system, subsystem, FDS. Man, words are hard if you guys know what I mean. Anyways, that's what they did to fix that coding issue. And then by April 18th, they're able to retrieve more data from Voyager 1, which should be in service for another 20 to 40 years, I'm going to say. But anyways, that chip was basically just rendering unusable data that couldn't be sent back. And then they just took the affected code, put it into other parts of the FDS, and Voyager 1 was repaired for service. So that is all for Voyager 1. And hopefully we can hear more, maybe when we finally lose contact and what their final recorded distance they were from Earth. But that is the end of Voyager 1 for now. We'll see in the future what happens to the spacecraft. But anyways, let's go move on to this week's Sky Report. Alright guys, so let's get into this week's Sky Report. Just a reminder that all the times are going to be in Eastern Daylight Time. So if you live in Chicago, Denver, or LA, figure out the time zone difference for yourself. Anyways, tonight there's really nothing much happening in the night sky. It's just that Mercury becomes more visible, which I kind of hinted at last week when Mercury was on the horizon, but it was very difficult to spot that it would become more visible throughout the summer. But anyways, most of the action in terms of objects in the sky actually occurred this morning with the viewings of Jupiter, the Galilean moons, Saturn's, and Neptune. But yeah, nothing really happening much tonight. Anyways, tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the moon will reach perigee, which is the closest point the moon is to Earth, which will happen in the morning. And then that night in the evening, the summer triangle will be on display, which is one of summer's most famous asterisms. So the triangle will consist of Altair from Aquila the Eagle. So the summer triangle has the three stars, and then they each come from their own constellation. That's just to clarify. So Altair is from Aquila the Eagle. Deneb is from Cygnus the Swan, and Vega is from Lyra the Harp. And so, spot the summer triangle. Altair will be 30 degrees high in the east with a magnitude of 0.8. Deneb will be at Altair's upper left when looking at the summer triangle with a magnitude of 1.3. And Vega is going to be just further up on the horizon of Deneb And that's actually going to be the brightest star out of the summer triangle with a magnitude of 0. So big O magnitude. So Thursday, definitely go out, try and see if you can see the summer triangle. It's pretty famous. I think it's worth going out that night to go and take a look at it. Then let's go into Friday. So in the morning for Friday, the most notable sighting is going to be the moon passing Neptune at 0.3 degrees north. And you can observe Neptune by locating it 5.5 degrees southeast of the constellation Pisces. If you don't know about Pisces and where it is in the night sky, because I'm not really going to get into that for this, all you got to do is you just got to locate the moon to find Neptune, and Neptune should look like a blue flat disk in the sky. So the very simple version of it is just find the moon and then look for a blue flat disk, and that blue flat disk should be Neptune. Anyways, that's kind of what's in the night sky. Let's get into some times. So tonight, sunset's going to happen at 8:33 p.m. I'm not going to get into sunrise because that's kind of stupid, say the least. But sunset 8:33 p.m. Moonset's going to be at 10:30 a.m. next day. First day, sunrise is going to be at 5:34 a.m. Sunset's going to be at 8:33 p.m. And moonrise is going to be at 12:10 a.m. And moonset's going to be at 11:44 a.m. next day. Friday, June 28th, sunrise is going to be at 5:34 a.m. Sunset's going to be at 8:33 p.m. Moonrise is going to be at 12:34 a.m. And moonset is going to be at 12:56 p.m., which should be, if I do the math in my head quickly, so 12:34 is the morning. So, that doesn't make sense, because if it's rising in the morning, I guess that would make sense. It's just, and I don't know. That's just kind of bizarre timing, but it's the summer, so the sun's going to be out for longer, so I can see what that means. Anyways, I digress. For all 3 days, the moon's going to be in a waning gibbous, so if you take a look at the moon, that's kind of what phase it's going to be in. So that's all I've got for this week's Sky Report. Of course, there's going to be one next week, so if you want to listen to more of these, stay tuned for this podcast, because there are going to be ones every week where I was just going to report on stuff like this. Anyways, that is this week's Sky Report. Let's go moving to our final topic that we're going to talk about on this episode. Alright guys, so to kind of finish out this episode of Interstellar Insights, we're going to be diving into some hypothetical stuff. And today we're going to be talking about a space mystery that's been around for quite a bit of some time, which would explain why objects in the Kuiper Belt cluster up together even though they're far out of the gravitational field of Neptune. So this theory is called Planet 9, the Planet 9 theory, or Planet X. I don't know why it's called Planet X, because that'd be Planet 10, and we haven't discovered a ninth planet yet, but I'm digressing here. Planet 9 is a theory that a planet exists beyond Neptune, and part of this would exist why objects in the Kuiper Belt are clustering up together, because they would be in the gravitational field of such a Planet 9, which, further explains it. So the creators of this theory are doctors Konstantin Batygin and Michael Brown, who are professors at Caltech, and they came up with this idea like 10 years ago, 2012, 2014 kind of time period, and Dr. Brown actually wrote about it in his book called How I Killed Pluto and Why I Had It Coming, which honestly is a book that I think should be on like an astrophysics or astronomy book list, which is something I need to do because I need to start reading stuff, especially considering the fact that I've never read Cosmos in my life. But anyways, I'm digressing about books and what you should read. There was some evidence early on supporting this theory. So there was evidence that showed that objects in the Kuiper Belt were clustered together in what we would expected, but then if they were to get into the field of Neptune's gravitational field, the bunching together of the Kuiper Belt objects wouldn't exist as they would get gravitationally scattered, whether that be deeper into the Kuiper Belt or into towards the outer and inner solar system, which at that point they would begin to melt, as many objects in the Kuiper Belt are actually just frozen bits of ice, and as they would go into the inner solar system, they would get heated up by the sun, which would turn them into comets. So if you guys know comets that just come across the sky, they're either from the asteroid belt, from objects thrown inward from the asteroid belt by Jupiter's or Mars's gravitational field, but they can also be Kuiper Belt objects far away that kind of strayed inward and then got caught in the gravitational field of Neptune. But I'm getting far ahead with comets. Later studies showed that trans-Neptunian objects, which is just a fancy word for Kuiper Belt and Oort-clad objects, I'm just going to refer to it as TNOs for now, just to keep it simple. Those that were most unstable and longer periods of orbit had a flat perihelion distribution between 15 to 30 astronomical units. So a little bit of vocabulary here. Perihelion basically is the point of an object's orbit that shows when it's closest to the sun. So objects with a smaller astronomical unit to describe their perihelion are objects that are going to be closer to the sun. So at their closest point, they are the closest objects to the sun. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars have some of the smallest perihelions, because when they are at their point where they are close to the sun, it's very small because their orbit itself is also very close to the sun. Now, objects that are farther away and have bigger numbers for astronomical units to represent their perihelion, those objects are in theory similar to objects, like let's take for example Neptune. When Neptune is at its perihelion, it's going to have a bigger number because the orbit itself is farther away from the sun. So basically, the perihelion is just the distance between it's just the distance between the object at its closest point to the sun. So simplified matter is when an object is at its closest to the sun, that distance is going to be represented in astronomical units. So anyways, going back to the Planet 9 theory, basically they discovered that all these TNOs had basically flat perihelion distribution between 15 to 30 astronomical units. And these were TNOs of the ones that had unstable and longer period orbits around the sun. So anyways, this flat distribution was predicted by and observed. So just for reference, what I was talking about was it being observed, but Dr. Badijan actually did some calculations and discovered that the flat distribution is consistent of there being a planet in the Kuiper Belt. So basically, he predicted, kind of simulated, like what if there was a Planet 9, and basically found that that flat distribution that was initially there from Planet 9 is consistent with what's going on currently in the Kuiper Belt, which is further pushing us to believe that there is a Planet 9 out there. Now, let's kind of talk about like a what if. Like, what if Planet 9 existed? Well, at that point, the solar system is still pretty big, and to kind of give you an analogy, like right now we're kind of observing to figure out if there's a Planet 9. Some of our planets in the solar system were kind of found in the same way. Take Neptune, for example. So after Uranus was discovered, I forgot who, but there was this French mathematician who did calculations and determined that there had to be another planet beyond Uranus because of Uranus's gravitational field being kind of a little bit estrayed, meaning that there had to be something acting upon it. And that was discovered to be Neptune. So that's kind of what's happening right now, is they're observing the patterns of Kuiper Belt objects clustering up, seeing hopefully if there is a Planet 9. If there were a Planet 9, the International Astronomical Union would be responsible for naming it, usually after a Roman god or goddess. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, all names of Roman gods. Those names would be carried over on the Planet Nine instead of being a very boring name, at which point no one would want to study it. Well, anyways, guys, let's go move over to our next segment. Alright, guys, so I forgot to mention this in the intro when I initially wrote it up, but I'm going to try and make a new segment today. I'm just going to call it Astronomical Trivia. If you've got anything better to call this segment, just let me know, comment down below, whatever. So basically, the gist of this segment is kind of like a way to garner audience and viewer participation with a little bit of astronomy trivia. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, a trivia question, and I'm probably going to make a poll on YouTube and Spotify where you can put your answers in and just put them in for fun. There's no prize. I don't know. Maybe in the future there will be, but for now, I don't know. Like a pat on the back, bragging rights, morale boost, something like that. But anyways, without further ado, here is this week's trivia question. What was the most recent mission by NASA to Pluto? I'm going to say this again. What was the most recent mission by NASA to Pluto? You guys, I'm going to put a poll out later today for you guys to put your answers in. And if you get it right, congrats. If you don't, you've got some homework. Sure, we'll call it homework. Just research about it or whatever. I will announce the answer to this question next week before we do next week's trivia question. Anyways, let's go move on. Let's go close this podcast out. Alright guys, so that wraps up this episode of Interstellar Insights. Before I sign off, I want to hear from you guys about a particular video idea that I've been having. So basically, 2 weeks from now, AP scores are going to get released. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I'm in high school, and a big part of the high school experience is obviously taking a bunch of APs. Now, I know this won't be astronomy centered, but I figured it'd be kind of good extra content to be a little bit entertaining, because I know podcasting can get a little bit boring for me and for you guys for kind of hearing the same thing. So just kind of some new video form content that would kind of spice up this channel. Well, anyways, guys, I'd like to hear your opinion on that, if I should go ahead and do it, and it'd be kind of like an unofficial face reveal too as a result of it. Well, anyways, besides the point, if you guys like this episode of Interstellar Insights, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Spotify, as well as give me a big old thumbs up on YouTube. Well, anyway, guys, this is Michael signing off.